Macron won't rule out fresh elections in France. Kyiv attacked by Russian drones carrying shrapnel, and disturbing signals from Moscow suggest Ukraine may be just first target. The latest news next. On the night of June 10th, Russia launched one of its largest attacks on Kyiv. The attacks also hit Odessa, Chernihiv and Dnipro regions, according to President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky. According to the president, Russian attacks are louder than the efforts of the United States and other countries to force Russia to peace. In total, Russia struck Ukraine with 315 drones, of which 250 were Shahed-type strike drones, 7 missiles, of which 2 were North Korean-made ballistic missiles. Russian strikes damaged residential buildings and urban infrastructure. In Odessa, terrorists damaged a maternity hospital. At present, 13 people are known to have been injured. Unfortunately, there are some killed.
It is vital that the response to this and other similar Russian attacks is not silence from the world, but concrete action. Action from America, which has the power to force Russia into peace. Action from Europe, which has no alternative but to be strong. Action from others around the world who called for diplomacy and an end to the war, and whom Russia has ignored. There must be strong pressure for the sake of peace.
This is not war. This is terror in real time. The sky over Kyiv, and not only Kyiv, was black with drones, the ground shaking from ballistic missiles, while the so-called guardians of global order whisper about restraint and fatigue. What kind of world hears the screams of the injured, sees a maternity hospital bombed, and still pauses to calculate political risks? Russia isn't negotiating, it's butchering in the open, and every hour of silence from Washington, Brussels, or anywhere else is not neutrality, it's complicity. Enough with statements, enough with concerns. Where is the action? Where are the consequences that were promised every time a red line was crossed? Because last night, Russia didn't just bomb cities, it bombed your credibility. Russian forces used Shahed-type drones equipped with shrapnel warheads designed to inflict maximum damage on people and property to attack Kyiv on the night of the 9th to the 10th of June. Reported by Yuri Ignat, head of the communications department of the Ukrainian Air Force Command, on the air during the National Joint Newscast. About details, responding to queries, a journalist stated that according to a 24/7 newscast correspondent, Kyiv residents discovered metal balls and other such objects in areas where debris from Russian drones had fallen. She questioned how frequently Russian troops arm Shahed-type drones with such materials and how dangerous they are.
The warhead of both missiles and Shahed-type drones can have different equipment. It can be thermobaric or high-explosive fragmentation ammunition, as well as shrapnel, in order to strike as large an area as possible. Not only equipment and cars can suffer from this, but also people.
Therefore, with such attacks, all services urge citizens not to stand at windows or on the street because the scattering of those elements poses a deadly threat to the lives of citizens. Russia and North Korea have agreed to establish facilities to produce Shahed-136 attack drones on Korean territory. It is about the Garpy and Garan modifications which Russia actively uses in the war against Ukraine, says the head of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, Kyrylo Budanov, in an interview with the War Zone. The development of such production in the DPRK could change the military balance in the region, particularly between North and South Korea. According to Budanov, it is not only the transfer of drones, but also a large-scale transfer of Russian technology. What the DPRK gets in return? In return for military assistance, Russia transfers technology to Pyongyang. These include the production of drones, the modernization of air-to-air missiles and submarine weapon systems. According to Budanov, the improvement in the accuracy of North Korean Khan-23 ballistic missiles is of particular concern.
Initially, with the beginning of the transfer to Russia, they were flying with a deviation of a few kilometers, but now they are exactly hitting the target. This is the result of the common work of Russian and North Korean specialists.
The intelligence also recorded joint work on missiles with nuclear capabilities. These are projects that can affect not only the situation in Ukraine, but also global security. Germany is sounding the alarm over the threat from Russia. There are many indications that the Kremlin may attempt to test NATO's Article 5, states the head of Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, Bruno Kohl. In his view, Russia will not limit itself to plans of seizing Ukraine. The reason is that Moscow is increasingly doubtful about the alliance's ability to act as a united front. Statement from German intelligence. In Berlin, they believe that after Ukraine, the Kremlin may challenge the entire alliance. At the same time, Kohl speaks of a threat to NATO's collective security.
We are absolutely certain and have intelligence evidence. Ukraine is just one step. There are people in Moscow who no longer believe that NATO's Article 5 is effective, and they want to test it.
The new European Union sanctions package against Russia is set to include restrictions on the tanker fleet and several key sectors of the Russian economy, states head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak. He summarized the results of an online meeting with advisors to the leaders of Northern Europe, the Baltic countries, the presidents of the European Council and the European Commission, as well as the European High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. The talks took place on June 10th.
We discussed further support for Ukraine in its fight against Russian aggression. I emphasized the critical need to strengthen our air defense amid intensified attacks from Russia.
He told the interlocutors about the Ukrainian delegation's visit to Washington in early June. According to Yermak, during the meetings with senior U.S. administration officials, they discussed the importance of sustained support for Ukraine.
Special attention was given to sanctions pressure. It's crucial for Ukraine that the EU's 18th sanctions package includes restrictions on Russia's banking and energy sectors, its tanker fleet, and provides for secondary sanctions.
Additionally, the parties discussed preparations for upcoming key international events, including the G7 summit in Canada, the NATO summit in The Hague, and the European summit. Joint coordination is the key to the strength of our democratic front, Yermak concluded. 1 year after dissolving the French parliament to trigger fresh elections in a bid to solidify his grip on power in France, President Emmanuel Macron has declined to rule out trying the same trick again. Speaking at the press conference in Nice on Monday, Macron said, "My wish is that there is not another dissolution, but I'm not in the habit of depriving myself of a constitutional power." After a poor showing by his party in last year's European elections saw them receive fewer than half the votes of the far-right opposition National Rally, Macron gambled on new nationwide elections to help him regain authority and legitimacy. The move backfired spectacularly with an unexpectedly strong showing by an impromptu left-wing alliance beating both Macron's electoral coalition and the RN. France's political landscape has since been fractious, leading many to speculate Macron would be tempted to call elections again as soon as the law permits in early July. In April, Macron rubbished press reports he was planning to dissolve parliament again, saying he had never considered doing so. In Nice, where he is attending the UN Oceans Conference, Macron said he wants to see more cooperation. The political parties who are able to form a majority in the National Assembly need to show that they can work together, like our neighbors do, he said. That's what democracy is about in moments where countries are divided. But for as long as that cooperation remains elusive, the constitutional power to roll the dice again will occupy Macron's mind, whether he admits it or not. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.